great movie critic, syndicated columnist with the Chicago Sun-Times, Richard Roeper, joining us. Richard, let me start with the very, very difficult question. Is it a biopic or a biopic?
I think a biopic is what you get when there's some sort of strange discoloration on your shoulder blade, isn't it? So I go with biopic.
Okay. Yeah, we have Elton John. That biopic is coming out. What's the time frame for that?
That's coming out this summer.
Okay.
It's starring Taron Egerton. People might not know the name, but he's been in the Kingsman, Secret Golden Circle movies, and a bunch of. He played Eddie the Eagle, actually. Remember the famous skier? He actually played him in a biopic a couple of years ago, Dan.
Who else is? I feel like Hollywood's going to go, oh, my God, look at what Queen made. They brought back Stars Born. Are we headed down that road of more biopics? Is there a Bob Marley or David Bowie or Prince biopic?
Everybody you mentioned there are films in development. There's actually a Motley Crue biopic that's, I think, on Netflix right now. I'm still waiting for Ballroom Blitz, the story of the one-hit wonders. Those would be up for the Best Academy Award for, short subject.
Best movie you saw this year was what?
The best movie I saw is a movie that got no love come nomination time. It was a movie called Widows, which was a heist movie, a political thriller set in my hometown of Chicago, directed by Steve McQueen, who won an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave. It had Viola Davis and Liam Neeson and Colin Farrell and Robert Duvall. And for some reason, it's went under almost everyone's radar. So if people get a chance, check out Widows. That movie should have won a half dozen Oscars.
I was thrilled that Regina King won, but probably thrilled because of another, a different reason than anybody else. She played Rod Tidwell's wife, Marcy, in Jerry Maguire.
That's right. And, even back then, and of course, as we know, Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. She wasn't even nominated. A lot of people thought that performance should have been nominated because when you look back at that film, that's the real relationship that's more interesting than Tom Cruise or Renee Zellweger. It's that wonderful, loving, supportive marriage between those two characters.
But it brings me to the topic of Best Supporting and Best Actor. In Green Book, I couldn't tell as I watched the movie who would be considered the best actor and who was the best supporting actor in there. How do you differentiate that? Is this strategically placed of we have a better chance winning if he's best supporting as opposed to best actor?
Yeah, the weird thing and the interesting thing is, Dan, there are no, the Academy has all these other arcane rules. It's like the NFL playbook. There are no rules about what's a supporting or lead performance. The studios can decide. So you mentioned Green Book. Now, I would say that I think Viggo Mortensen was the lead because we get about 20 minutes of him at the beginning of the movie before Mahershala Ali's character's introduced into the film.
Yeah.
At that point, they're just co-leading stars. But, for example, Olivia Colman, who won Best Actress last night for The Favorite, she's really a supporting character. Emma Stone is the lead in that movie. She's the one who has the most screen time.
So it is strategic in we think you have a better chance, therefore we get more eyeballs on the movie if this person wins an Academy Award.
And the other thing is, Dan, just what kind of an impact it has on audiences. The most famous example to me is Anthony Hopkins, who won Best Lead Performance for Silence of the Lambs. That movie's over 2 hours long. He's in the movie for about 20 to 25 minutes. But he was so memorable, the studio rightfully thought, let's put him up for lead performance. And he won for Best Actor in a film in which, Jodie Foster and Scott Glenn have way more screen time.
Who got screwed last night?
Well, I think, for the Best Picture, I would have preferred to see Black Klansman or Roma win. I also was not a huge fan of Bohemian Rhapsody overall. And I like, Rami Malek's a great actor, but he did not even perform those vocals. Those are, basically lip syncing that we saw. So I to me, I would have much rather have seen Christian Bale win for Vice for lead actor.
You had Spike Lee who tried to walk out when Green Book won. Has that ever happened before where somebody's that upset with somebody winning?
Yeah, it has happened a few times, although usually they do it kind of quietly. It's usually people who are upset that they didn't win. I know Will Smith went home early one time. They claimed one of the kids had a cold, so they had to get out of there early. But I can't remember anybody walking out. And, Spike Lee had just won an Academy Award, for his screenplay for BlacKkKlansman. But, he was not, like a lot of people were, he was not a huge fan of Green Book. He started to walk out. He came back, I don't know if he thought better of it. I know he had a couple of conversations with other people who said, listen, don't make this about you now. You can talk about the movie later. So, but yeah, he was definitely ticked off.
What's the 2019 movie that we absolutely have to see?
I think it's The Irishman, which is the Martin Scorsese film. It's a mob film, obviously, about the Irish factor, and it's got everybody's back. Some of the classics. We got De Niro, Pacino, Joe Pesci in this movie. They've been talking about The Irishman forever, but now it actually has completed filming. It's really going to happen.
I hated The Departed.
Well, that there are a lot of mixed feelings about that. You're wrong sometimes. This would be one of those cases, so I would suggest you go back and rewatch it. And
God,
maybe,
Nicholson's not good in that role.
Well, I'll give you that. Right. At a certain point in Nicholson's career, he started just doing Jack Nicholson.
Whose career would you rather have, De Niro or Pacino?
Boy, I think maybe De Niro, only because, and I love Pacino, and he's still churning out the movies. But De Niro made that nice pivot where he had a lot of fun doing the comedies and also making the money, because those guys didn't get paid back in the 70s. They didn't make any money. So De Niro, I think, might be the more astute businessman and has maybe had a little bit more fun in the the home stretch of his career.
Where are we headed with movies, with the influx of great TV? And it feels like the great actors are going to TV.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right about that. That's because TV is, has at least for the last, half dozen years, maybe longer, been more of the writer's medium. Yeah, as you know, a lot of these movies are superhero movies that almost write themselves. It's all about the special effects and all of that. Whereas something like True Detective and Handmaid's Tale and a million others, these episodic shows. If you're Julia Roberts, you could play the mom of somebody in a feature film, or you can have the lead in a show like the Amazon series Homecoming, where she got to do, great work over, an 8 or 9 episode arc. So I think for folks like us who, really appreciate, great writing and great acting, there's probably more of that on television right now, if you will, or streaming, whatever you want to call it, than there is in the conventional movie theaters.
What was the Jennifer Aniston movie where it's sort of based off Dolly Parton? The songs that her daughter, it's a beauty queen.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but that was actually a lot of fun.
I thought it was
Dolly contribute.
I thought it was really well done. I thought that the girl played her daughter. And Aniston, I think, is underrated as a comedian. Dumpling's the name of it.
Yeah, Dumpling. Thank you for that. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem there is we can't think of the title because that's because Netflix is putting out more movies than all of the studios put together. And some of them get lost in the shuffle. But that's a terrific example. That movie's not going to get made for theaters in 2019. But it was a terrific piece of entertainment. Dolly Parton, as you mentioned, contributed 6 original songs. There's a movie that just came out this weekend on Netflix called Paddleton.
Yeah.
With Ray Romano. Ray Romano, who again is another guy who, in The Big Sick a couple of years ago, and now in this movie, proves that he can do more than sitcom acting. So I know a lot of traditional movie critics and studio people are threatened by Netflix. I say, welcome to the party, because a lot of things that would never even get produced or released find a home on Netflix.
Ray Romano's in The Irishman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
got a small role.
A ton of familiar comedic actors. Guys like Scorsese, they've always been great at finding somebody. You go all the way back to The King of Comedy, where he puts Jerry Lewis in that role. He's always been great about, unconventional casting and finding something in someone that we never knew was there.
Rupert Pupkin, I believe, was De Niro's
there you go, exactly.
character. You still haven't reviewed all of my movies that like my acting ability.
Well, your IMDb is, longer than John Goodman's at this point, so I'd have to take a week off from all my gigs to get the entire Dan Patrick oeuvre. Although we could just do a film, we could do a film festival, and there you go.
Okay, all right. Well, whose career would you rather have, mine or John Goodman's?
Well, Let's call that a pickup. I think that's a pickup.
That's a push. Hey, it's great to talk to you, Richard. Hope you're doing well. We appreciate you joining us.
Anytime, Dan. Take care.
That's Richard Roeper, Chicago Sun-Times nationally syndicated columnist, movie critic. Yeah, I remember at one point he was going to review all of my roles in the Sandler movie. And I believe I'm up to like 17 movies, something like that. I mean, they're not long scenes, but they're movie stealing.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.